him, but he will be. He will be.
Okay, we're
Take
live.
care, everybody.
Oh, we have got number of
Take care.
audio, 140. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. We're live. Welcome, everyone. We, the Department of Special Education, SNDT Women's University, welcome you to the national webinar on international and national policies and legislative provisions for persons with disabilities. एक विनंती विशेष आपला mics mute वर नेहमी ठेवा. A humble request to everyone to please keep their mics on mute at all times to prevent any untoward interruption in the proceedings. Thank you. Before we begin the proceedings for the day, I request everyone to please join us for the university song. Priti ma'am. Thank you, everyone. I now call upon Professor Sujata Ban, Head of Department of Special Education, to introduce the national webinar and formally convey our welcome.
Thank you, Betty. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Department of Special Education, SNDT Women's University, I welcome one and all to this three-day national webinar on international and national policies and legislative provisions for persons with disabilities. We are delighted to have Dr. Mani with us today. Our smiles tell it all. Our department has a long association with Dr. Mani, and it won't be wrong to say that Dr. Mani has played a huge role in putting our department at the center stage when one talks about special education. He's been mentor for many, and I have been one of those fortunate ones to be trained by him. His vision, his intellect, and most importantly, his down-to-earth attitude makes him an exceptional human being and leader in the field of rehabilitation, particularly in the field of visual impairment. A formal introduction will follow. He's an extremely busy person, and yet he took out time for us. So I'm really very thankful to you, Dr. Mani, for that. We are also privileged to have our respected Vice Chancellor, Madam Professor Shashikala Vanzari, amongst us. Our every endeavor of the department is possible only with her support and encouragement. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being the rock behind us and supporting us unconditionally. I don't know if Dr. Punani has already joined us, but Even if he's not there, I want to welcome him. He's the Executive Secretary of Blind People's Association, Chairperson of ICVI, the International Council for the Education of the Visually Impaired Western Asian region. He's such a selfless, passionate, and a dynamic leader and a role model for many, and definitely for me included in the list. An honor to have him as our keynote speaker for this national webinar. He's going to share the kind of work ICVI and BPA has done right now in this time of pandemic for the people with disabilities, besides the various policies that he's going to talk about. India is such a policy-rich nation. I think we have the most robust policies for persons with disabilities in our country, related to their education, employment, health, and every aspect of rehabilitation. Then we wonder why it is that even today, we see children with disabilities out of school. We see persons with disabilities without jobs. We see that the society is still not embracing everybody with disabilities. Why is there a gap between the law and the reality, between the rhetoric and the ground level? I feel the awareness and understanding of anything is the prerequisite for applying that knowledge in the field. Therefore, this webinar was planned with that objective, to familiarize everyone with the policies and legislations for persons with disabilities, for developing an understanding of how these policies can facilitate both special education and inclusive education, and also to know how they impact education today. While we would have loved to have this national webinar face-to-face, but in these unprecedented turbulent times, we have to learn to adapt to the situation and make the most of it, and continue in this journey of ours to make a difference in our lives and in the lives of others. We have limited time, so I want to put a stop to what I say and listen to our dignitaries. And I also want to welcome all my friends, my mentors, my guides, Professor Sudesh Mukhopadhyay ma'am, Aloka Di ma'am, and my contemporary and friend Asmita Hudar. I don't know if Dr. Verma is there. She was supposed to join. So I welcome you all, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart to support in all our initiatives in taking these small steps to create the awareness and change the field of rehabilitation. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much.
Narayan is also here.
Professor Narayan, please, a hearty welcome. I'm really, really honored to have you all amongst us today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my privilege.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Over to Betty.
Thank you, ma'am. It is now my honor to welcome our dignitaries for the inauguration of this webinar. I would like to begin by welcoming our chief guest, Dr. MNG Mani, Chief Executive Officer, International Council for Education of People with Visual Impairment, ICEVI. I request my colleague, Ms. Yukti Gupta, to please introduce Dr. Mani to our audience.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you to our national webinar on national and international policies and legislative provisions for persons with disabilities. It is with special excitement that I'm pleased to welcome and introduce Dr. MNG Mani sir to our participants. Dr. Mani sir is the CEO of International Council for Education of Persons with Visual Impairment and Executive Director for Global Campaign on Education for All Children with Visual Impairment. Mani is also a member of the Executive Committee of the Indian Government Program Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. He is also an advisor on the field for education for CDM. Dr. Mani has obtained 2 doctoral degrees, one in general education from India and the other in special education from the United States of America. Till July 2006, Dr. Mani has served as a principal of Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya College of Education, Coimbatore, and also served as an Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Disability Management and Special Education, Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Education and Research Institute, Coimbatore. He has also published several books and monographs in the field of special education, inclusive education, and many more. Dr. Mani has done a lot of work in making math accessible for persons with visual impairment. He also has published more than 100 articles nationally and internationally. He has guided more than 100 research studies at MA, MPhil, and PhD levels. He is also consultant for all policy decisions for persons with disabilities nationally and internationally. He is also involved in policy making for so many countries. Last but not the least, he has also visited more than 40 countries in all continents of the world in connection with disability related work in general and services for persons with visual impairment in particular. The presence of such a personality in our department and in our program is a blessing. We are really thankful to you, sir, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend our program today. We hope that the students are able to seek little guidance and invite something from your thoughts. Thank you so much, sir. Welcome you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yukti. Welcome, sir. I would request you to please say a few words.
Madam Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sujata Bond, and my dear colleagues, Professor Mukhopadhyaya, Aloka Gugaji, and Jayant Narayanan. And I'm extremely happy to be part of this national webinar. Well, all along my career, I have been telling my teachers that the teacher should never sit and teach. They should always move around and meet with the students. I think it is a curse. Now, since last year, I've been doing this teaching by sitting, which I hate. Nevertheless, now we have to do that under this pandemic period. I congratulate the university for doing a great job. My association goes back to the 90s when we had close interaction with the department when I met Professor Yashuben Mehta and later Dr. Smriti Surup, and it was wonderful teamwork that we saw in SNDT that we requested CBM to come up with special assistance for establishing the resource center. So congratulations and keep up your good work. Well, should I continue my address now? Or,
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I will be very brief in the subsequent sessions. You have stalwarts like Sudesh Ji and Bhushan Punani, Aloka Di, Jayanti Narayan. All of them will be speaking on various topics. I will highlight, the basis for this, the international movement on disability. Well, I'm going back, rewinding to 1990, when the Education for All, that initiative came up at the Jomtien conference in Thailand. In 1990, they came up with this declaration, Jomtien Declaration. And I don't know how many of you have gone through that. That is the beginning of the Education for All children with disabilities. But unfortunately, when you look at all these 10 articles and various subclasses of the Jomtien Declaration, there is one subclass under Article 3 where the word disabled is mentioned. It was a world declaration, but two people fought very hard to include the word disabled in the declaration. One is William Broyer, the past president of ICEVI, and the second one is Mr. Lal Advani, who was the president of the Asian Blind Union and also the National Institute director of the National Institute for the Visually Handicapped. both of them shared with us the difficulties they had to go through in convincing the policymakers to add that one word, disabled, in that declaration. But that was the beginning. And what happened? That declaration, that clause did not talk about inclusion. They mentioned that the children, not even use children. It said disabled need special attention in education. Disabled need special attention in education. So it was not talking about inclusion. It was not talking about special education. It was just talking about the need for special attention for disabled children. Well, the big push came in the year 1994 through the Salamanca statement. Well, I have to congratulate two people who are instrumental to this also, to bring that. One is Professor Jangira, who is still, in Gurgaon. He was, the head of the Department of Special Education at that time in NCRT, along with Professor Mukhopadhyaya. And these people have significantly contributed, to this. In the Salamanca Declaration, one step forward, you can see they came up with the caption of special needs education. Special needs education, that word was coined, I think, at the Salamanca statement. And the second one, the Salamanca statement came up with the concept of schools for all. It is not education for all, schools for all. That means, every school should make it accessible for children with disabilities. That was the push. Well, that was good. And many countries started coming up with the law. Even in India, we started, coming up with the PwD Act in 1995. And then the third milestone, I can call that as the Dhaka Declaration. Dhaka Declaration in 2000, when all the world countries came together and started talking about education for all. And then they wanted to fix targets. We cannot just simply talk about policies. We have to come up with the targets. So what is the target to achieve basic primary education for all children? 2015, okay? The target was fixed. But what happened? The international organizations like CBM, Sightsavers, that are supporting education of children with disabilities all over the world, they were realizing that the number was not improving. Though the policies were coming up internationally, the number was not improving. And then in 2005, the leading organizations came together in Pontevedra, Spain, as it was organized by ICEVI. As we were specific about the visual impairment, our focus was how to improve educational opportunities for visually impaired children throughout the world. And we were citing that not more than 10% of children with visual impairment had education in the 1990. In 2005, we were repeating the same number. So that means, what happened in the 15 years? We are repeating the same number, that not more than 10% of the children with visual impairment are having access to school. So what we did a basic research. It's a kind of desk research. We wanted to find out where are the gaps. And then we just looked at all the countries in the world and tried to find out how many countries have exclusive policies on inclusive education. How many countries have included a policy or a statement on inclusive education in the overall national policy? And to our surprise, we thought many countries, they did not have this as the focus. There are few countries like Vietnam. They had exclusive, task force to take care of children with disabilities in the general education. But in many countries, maybe a small sentence somewhere in the policy. So there was no adequate stress. So though the international declarations like the Jomtian one and the Salamanca and the Dakar came up, but nothing was coming up. But that was the time when the UNCRPD was also coming up. And the move towards UNCRPD was also coming up. So then all the international bodies, we came together and we thought, well, we have to capitalize on this, the UNCRPD, and create awareness among the countries to see that education for all means education for everyone. That includes children with disabilities. So at that time, there was this World Bank, project initiative. World Bank was supporting many countries. They call that as fast track countries, to make education realistic. So we met the representatives of World Bank, lobbied at global level to see that the countries which are under fast track, funding, they have to ensure that unless they include education of children with disabilities as an integral part of the national schemes, they will put a check on the fund release. So the lobbying was happening at all levels to influence the governments to include education for all children with disabilities as an integral part of the overall education system. Otherwise, it was just, staying as an attachment. It was not integrated into the system. So finally, we launched the campaign called as Global Campaign on Education for All Children with Visual Impairment. And then all international organizations, they were asked to come up with one fundamental principle for the campaign. What fundamental principle came up? Nobody talked about policies. Nobody talked about the resources. Nobody talked about teaching aids, etc. All the organizations, after brainstorming for about 3 to 4 days, they came up with one sentence. That is the principle of that campaign. They said, create a demand for education. Create a demand for education. When you say creating a demand for education, the meaning is, are parents of children with disabilities valuing education? Are children with disabilities valuing education? Because at that time, people were educated. They are not going, beyond primary level because there is no inspiration. There is no jobs, no role models. So the idea was to create a demand for education, work with the parents. So ICVI wanted to do two things. One is pushing hard at the global level to influence education for all children with disabilities. Though our policy was focusing on all children with disabilities, being an organization working in the area of visual impairment, our activity was focused towards visual impairment because our expertise was in that area. So we worked with about 25 focus countries in different parts of the world, particularly in the developing countries, in the Asia region, East Asia, Africa, and Latin America region. And within a short span of about 5 years, we are very proud that our effort was not a global effort. It was focused effort in a few countries. We could we could enroll additional 125,000 children with visual impairment in schools. That is very small compared to the need, but that worked. We organized capacity building program and met with the government officials. So that went at the advocacy level to make education for all children with visual impairment a reality. The other major thing, I think I want particularly universities like SNDT to consider this. what we did, another major project we initiated. At that time, we met with the parents, met with the graduates, yeah, very few graduates, and met with the leaders who are visually impaired people and asked them, the reasons for not enrolling more children at the higher education level. One, I told there is lack of inspiration. Role models were not there. And secondly, the parents were not convinced that there is a future for a visually impaired child. So we conducted a study with the support of the Nippon Foundation in 2005. And we found out that in the entire Asia region, only 300 children, 300 persons with visual impairment were graduates. Only 300. So that means, they just go up to primary level, and then some go to the secondary level. Very few go to the higher secondary level. I think a handful of people went to the university level. So we started this higher education program that was in the East Asia region, because Nippon Foundation is interested in the East Asia region. And currently, the program is going on in Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, and Mongolia. We started that as a small project. And today, after 10 years, we are very proud to say about, the country started at various points of time. Myanmar started in 2014, and Laos started in 2016, and Mongolia started last 2017, but Indonesia started in 2006 after we launched our global campaign. We took this as a special project, and I'm very happy to say today that these countries have seen more than 2,600 graduates who are visually impaired, and many of them have already started getting employment, working in the IT field, working in the technology field, working in the banks, working as teachers. Now they are working very closely with the parents, and I have absolute evidence to prove that the role models that have emerged through this program not only helped them in their career, it has influenced thousands and thousands of parents to admit their children with visual impairment in school. So that means today, if we have to increase the enrollment of children with visual impairment and disabilities, we have to create role models among people with disabilities. We can talk, but to influence, we need a role model. That is why the ICVI implemented this global campaign in collaboration with the World Blind Union. And people want to see the evidence. People want to see the future for education. So friends, the policies are one end. And what we have observed over the years, through the higher education program, it is not only the enrollment. These youngsters have come up with the youth groups. ICBA started organizing a country champions program. That means all these graduates who had the privilege of getting education, they have come as a group in each country, and not only influencing parents and teachers, they have started lobbying with the governments also to ensure that the rights of persons with rights are given to persons with disabilities in education, employment, etc. So friends, on the one hand, we can keep on keep on introducing policies, but simple introduction of policies will not result in achieving education for all. All of you must have gone through the latest UNESCO's global monitoring report. The global monitoring report says that 25% of the billion children may be out of school now, and out of them, 50% of children with disabilities from the low income and the middle income countries, they have no access. So that means the target to achieve education for all today, who are the left out children? Who are disabled. So unless you are including children with disabilities in the mainstream, the world can never achieve education for all. Well, I am personally not happy that we have pushed the target of 2015 to 2030. So 2015, why we pushed that? That was a self-defeat. So we have agreed that, well, we have come up with so many policies, national, international, big committees, resolutions. At the end of the day, there are 25% of the billion children out of school. Out of them, about 50% of them are children with disabilities in low income countries. So that is why we have to create role models. We have to work with two groups. One is we have to work with organizations of people with disabilities. We have to encourage higher education so that they become role models. And secondly, we have to work with the parents. And especially at a time like this pandemic, the working with the parents and working with organizations of people with disabilities, that is going to be very useful for increasing the opportunities for children with disabilities in education. And another very important thing, our experience of the recent pandemic is that when everything was shut down, the one group which was vibrant was the group of visually impaired graduates from the higher education countries in Vietnam, Philippines. How it was possible? Everybody became conversant in technology. They formed their own groups. They formed their own, prepared their own e-materials. They started sharing. The life was going on, learning was going on. So in a situation like this, we have to make effective use of technology. So friends, I know, but I think you decide yourself where we stand with regard to the international policies. We have beautiful policies, but that policy should not stay on the shelf. That should come to implementation. For implementation, we have to have several agents. And among several agents, the two very key important agents are people with disabilities themselves and parents. So we are all have to support, the activation of these two groups so that the real education for all children with visual impairment can be achieved at least by 2030. I'm going to be there in 2030, to see, whether we are going to achieve the education for all by then or not. We have already started our lobby through the International Council for Education of People with Visual Impairment to focus more on the sustainable development goals to see that everything is inclusive of children with disabilities. Well, I stop here.
No, sir, you can continue. I think somebody started presenting the screen. Please request the participants to turn their screen off.
No problem. So I will start. I've almost come to the end of my remarks. So we will be focusing on this education for all in the forthcoming World Summit of the ICVI and the World Blind Union, which is going to be held on 28th to 30th June 2021, and we will be organizing a number of webinars, about 30 webinars on various topics given by experts. Dr. Bhushan Punani is also organizing one of the webinars. Nandini Rawal and world experts will be organizing webinars, and one is on youth leadership, another is on higher education, early childhood education. All these things are there, and I request you to please register for the webinars and also the World Blindness Summit. So finally, I request Madam Vice Chancellor and Professor Sujata Bhan to organize a meeting of the universities to encourage them to admit more children, more students with disabilities in their program. The UGC has this HEPS in TEPSI program. Recently, we reviewed that, and the programs are there, but not many takers. They are not motivated. As a result, the students with disabilities are not coming into higher education in large numbers. So, if you are able to do that, that is going to be the foundation for making education for all reality, at least by 2030. So we are in now 2021. We have another decade, and we will be extremely happy if the SNDT University takes the lead, and we can bring all the connections from the international bodies to make this movement a very strong movement. So thank you so much, Madam, for giving me this opportunity. And the time is up, and I really enjoyed being with you this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much for always motivating and encouraging us. And we will take this suggestion of yours and guidance from you to make it happen. Getting all the universities together and taking this initiative. Definitely, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mani. Our apologies, firstly, sir, for that interruption.
No
And
problem.
thank you, sir, for the journey through history, for enhancing our connection to the roots of education for individuals with disabilities. And yes, I do agree, we do need to create positive role models in our field so that we can maintain that environment of positivity and specifically hope for all those who are following. Uh, Also, thank you for showing us a way forward. And like ma'am said, we will definitely work on it and take things ahead. Before we, and once again, I would like to thank you, sir, for taking the time out to be here with us and for lending your support to all of us here at DSC SNDTWU. Thank you.
Thank you. I will join the session tomorrow. I will join Sudesh Madam's session
Yay,
because
thank you.
today I have to just leave because today is our Founders Day. The founder Avinash Lingamaya, who started the Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya. Today is his birthday.
Mani,
So there
remember
are,
me to everyone. I started my
Yes,
journey
yes.
from that institute. Don't forget that.
Yes,
So
yes,
Swami
I
Ji's
know
and all
that.
give my pranam
Yes.
until I was remembering all of them. And see you tomorrow. I need you tomorrow actually for
Yes,
everything.
I will.
I
Thank you.
request you to just hang on for 5 minutes, sir. Just, madam, let
No
madam
problem.
finish
No
her
problem.
address
we
and
should
then you
hear
can.
to this
Yes,
Madam
Yes,
Bajaj.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
I'm staying
I'm
for
here
this
for
session.
Madam
Yes,
Bajaj.
Yeah.
yes.
Because
yes.
tomorrow I
I'm
won't
not going
see
now.
her,
Yeah.
so I wanted
Yes,
to
yes.
really thank Professor Vanjari for being always there for all programs. So I'm here now to listen to her.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mani, sir. Thank you, Professor Mukhopadhyay. Before I take this further, I am very happy to announce that we have 200 participants here with us on Zoom from various parts of the country. We have teachers, students, assistant professors, education consultants, and a varied bunch of audience. We also have additional participants on YouTube. We're currently live on YouTube, so all those who haven't registered on Zoom, you can watch us on YouTube. Let's take this ahead. SNDT Mahila Vidyapitacha Mananiya Kulguru Professor Shashikala Vanjari Madam यांचा परिचय करून देताना मला अतिशय आनंद होत आहे.
You skip my introduction. Okay, because sir has to leave.
Yes,
Sir
yes,
has to
yes,
leave.
Yes, yes.
No, I will stay. I mean, no problem.
Okay,
ma'am.
okay,
Please,
okay,
I want to listen to you.
Madam, prior to taking over as Vice Chancellor to SNDT University, was Professor and Head Department of Education, Rashtrasan Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University. Madam is a resource person for many institutions, to name a few: ASC, UGC, RTM Nagpur University, ASC, BAAM Aurangabad University, and so. She is also a mentor for various professional bodies like the Council for Teacher Education, Bhopal, Rajasthan affiliated to Commonwealth Council of Educational Administration and Management, New Zealand, World Council for Curriculum and Instruction, Cincinnati, USA. In 2017, she was awarded the Commander B.M. Bhandarkar Award and the Madam Marie Curie Mahila Vignan Puraskar by Swadesh Vignan Andolan, Karnataka. In 2014, in the Commonwealth Conference held at University of New Brunswick, Canada, Madam Vice Chancellor was conferred with Fellowship Award of Commonwealth Council of Education, Administration and Management. She has many publications to her credit, both nationally and internationally, and has received the Dr. Anand Vaskar Award of YCMOU Nasik for her book, Education in Emerging Indian Society. Under Madam's able guidance, SNDT Women's University has gained new heights and has been shining in a new light. Madam, we request you to please say a few words on this occasion.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Betty. Good morning. Respected Chief Guest, Dr. M.N.G. Mani, CEO, International Council for Education of People with Visual Impairment. The keynote speaker, Dr. Bhushan Punani, all the eminent resource person, my head, Professor Dr. Sujata Bhan, other colleagues and dear participants. I am extremely delighted to make my presence in this virtual conference, virtual webinar on international and national policies and legislative provisions for persons with disabilities. Now, at the beginning, I would like to convey my compliments and congratulations to Professor Sujata Bhan. She is always very, we can say that, motivated to organize such kind of activities. And I know her attitude towards making fruitful programs and events in the university. So definitely I would compliment her. Sir, I am extremely happy to listen your thoughts, Dr. Mani, and I feel honored to be in the SNDT University because it has a long history and it has its own legacy that you might be knowing. The founder, he was a social reformer, and the man, he used to empower the women with education, and he saw the dream and which is realized in the 21st century. Sir, already you have mentioned many more things from education for all to present scenario. And we are very fortunate to have our constitution. The Constitution of India ensures the freedom, justice and dignity of all individuals and implicitly mandates an inclusive society for all, including persons with disabilities. But still, there is need to organize such kind of events. What it throws or what it reflects, because already you have highlighted one point in your speech, and that point is there is need to create a demand for education. So I will carry this thought forever, because being a teacher educator, I know the problems of disabled persons, and keeping in mind, or in order to achieve the objective of education for all, it is there is an urgent need to have such kind of things in our mind, because we are so-called elite class of the society, educationists in India, and we are in higher education. It's our prime responsibility to create awareness about the disabled person. Sir, already you have mentioned many more things, and in Sujata's introductory note, she has highlighted one point. We have to match the laws with realities. Yes, because though there are policies, legislative procedures, but people are not aware about that. And because of that, hardly out of the literate class from disabled, only 34% they are getting job or employment. This is very pathetic scenario. So what could we do in the society? Sir, I think there is need to have some commitment toward towards these disabled community or disabled persons, then and then it is possible to achieve our objective, which is set for the disabled person. Unless and until we have that kind of thought in mind, yes, though I am teacher educator, but I have commitment. I should have that commitment towards my disabled persons, disabled society. Then and then it is possible to achieve the objectives. Unless we have that kind of thought in mind, we could not intrinsically motivate to reach to the disabled person. Sir, I am very much enthusiastic in speaking many more points, but I know that there is a limit of time. And my department, under the leadership of Dr. Sujata Bhan, all of them, those they are in department and from outside, they are working hard to achieve the objectives. And this is the best department in my university. So I am very happy, sir. And in future, because they have long history from Smruti Swaroop, and of course, your support was there. And because of the galaxy of the eminent stakeholders and expert, my department has reached to a particular height, and it is one of the best departments in my university. Sir, on behalf of the university and on my personal behalf, I would express my gratitude towards Dr. Mani sir and all the senior most fellows who are with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, and all the best, Sujata.
Thank you very, very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. आपल्या मार्गदर्शनासाठी खूप खूप धन्यवाद. I would now like to take this moment to request Professor Sudesh Mukhopadhyay if she would like to say a few words.
It's always a pleasure, and my thanks to Professor Vanjari, especially because now it has been quite a few meetings that we are meeting only virtually and not in presence. And of course, Dr. Mani, though I always call him Mani for my ages, I don't know how many decades, Mani, we have been together traveling this path. And I really want to publicly acknowledge also this fact. Certain ways I learned so many things from Mani. Because adaptation today we talk about, but Mani, I still remember those days when we sat there with all the students of Ramkishan Mission Vidyalaya, and I'm glad that it's a founder day. And we started working on those things which many of us today are saying. That time we didn't have anything like adaptation guidelines or anything. We really evolved it for our own experience. I'm really thankful. Of course, tomorrow I'm going to talk more. And the reason why, Mani, I was asking you to be there. Sujata always give me the toughest of the topics. And she will find out a word and I will get, searching how to justify the topic which she has given. So I have put certain information together to justify the topic for tomorrow. And that was the reason I requested Betty to share that word thing of 2 pages with all the persons on the web so that they can read. I won't spend time on that. But Mani, I need you there to be a co-partner in that sense of the term, that we talk about that legislation part of inclusive education, which is a great hurdle, the points which you have made just now. So I think we will work together and I look forward to that. Thanks, Professor Vanjari, for your guidance to this department. I feel myself as a part of this department, thanks to Sujata and company, for my young friends like Betty and Yukti. So thank you very much for giving me this chance. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Mukhopadhyay. And it's now time to introduce our special invitees for today. We have Professor Preeti Verma, former head, Department of Special Education, SNDTWU. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. Varsha Gattu, head, Department of Education, Aliyavar Jung, National Institute of Speech and Hearing Disabilities, Divyangjan. Welcome, ma'am. And we also have Dr. Asmita Hudar, Principal, Harshu Advani, College of Special Education. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you, Professor Verma, Dr. Gattu, and Dr. Hudar for joining us today. I request you to please say a few words.
Alokadi is there. Alokadi, would you like to say a few words, please? Alokadi is there.
Yes, Dr. Aloka Guha.
Yes, thank you
Ma'am, your
so
audio is
much
Yeah,
not clear.
your audio is not.
for inviting
Yes.
Dr. Mani. He always gives us.
Uh,
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
now
we
it's
can.
better. Now it's better.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Oh.
inviting me to be part of, like Dr. Sudesh Mukhopadhyay said to the Vice Chancellor, since Dr. Yashu Mehta's time, I feel part of your department. I remember meeting her in one of your workshops maybe 2 years ago, and I went up to her, Dr. Yashu Mehta, and I said, ma'am, you perhaps don't remember me. My name is Aloka. And she said, Guha. So yes, I've been very much a part of your department in many ways. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the session. And thank you, Dr. Mani, as usual, for setting the way for us and for giving us so much of the background. Now we will look at the current situation. And thank you so much, Dr. Sujata Ban, Betty, Preeti, all of you. It's you're part of my family.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Dr. Hudar, if you would like to also say a few words.
Thank you so much. I liked Sudesh ma'am's term, Sujata and company. So thank you, BC ma'am and SNDT family, I would say Sujata and company. And I was in completely listening zone. I don't know why I have been asked to say a few words, but then once a teacher, always a teacher. Mic मिलता है तो ऐसा कभी नहीं होता है कि क्या बोलूं. There is always a point ready flickering in the mind when somebody else is talking, and particularly when Mani sir is talking, there are so many things happening. You know, the meter is down about thinking and about it. So I just would like to share one thought or maybe my experience in front of actually Mani sir, Aloka di, Sudesh ma'am and Jayanti ma'am and all. मैं बेचारी क्या बोलूं? I'm in that zone. But yet I had little experience with developing a policy for Mumbai University, a disability policy. And I just wanted to share a thought that like even Mani sir mentioned and Sujata said that we are a policy rich country. And yet when it comes to implementation, we all are not really very happy the way we are doing. So when we were evolving this policy for University of Mumbai about disabilities and how to ensure their rights and making the university campus diversity friendly. We had our focus on two things for making the policy doable, implementable. And we had the focus on 2 points, and one was operationalizing the jargon, because I don't know, somewhere people are scared of policy documents. Forget about parents. Even when we interact with our B.Ed students, and as an assignment we give them projects in under D17 course and all to read up the policies, summarize it and retell it. There is a big no about it. People have hesitations and they're scared about the policy documents, whether we will understand it or not. So somewhere I feel while we review the policies, while we discuss the policies, two of the important points I would feel, one is operationalizing the jargon in it, how well that has been done, so that somebody who is into action mode knows what to do. And the secondly, I believe, and we added that to the policy document of University of Mumbai, is adding SOPs and templates. Because for the one who is supposed to be into action mode, the policy and the provisions and the language there does not readily convert into action. So if you have as an annexure to the policy documents your templates and SOPs ready, then whoever is into action mode, and we all are into action mode, but somehow that doesn't happen. But individuals with disabilities, family members, professionals, B.Ed, M.Ed students, whoever is into action mode should know what exactly is the way forward, rather than having these discussions in conferences, which is absolutely important, which is, it's like a think tank. But somewhere I think we will have to highlight more about taking it to the micro level and keeping it simple, operationalizing the terms, and adding SOPs and templates to the policy document helps. I just wanted to share that insight which I got out of the small experience I had being part of a wonderful team where we were evolving the policy document for University of Mumbai. And as I said, nothing much to share when there's so much being said so appropriately and so well put together. There's nothing much from my side to add. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Dr.
so
Ravi.
much. Thank you so much. I think you made very, very good points, Asmita. Thank you for being there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd now like to request Dr. Jayanti Narayan to please say a few words.
Jayanti ma'am is there? Yeah, she's there. Yeah, she's there.
Dr. Bhushan Punani has joined.
Yes, yes, we
Yes,
welcome
yes.
him. We welcome him. And then
I'm just waiting for you to join because I have to leave now so that I can pass on the relay button of ICBI to you.
Mani, I did listen.
Yeah, he was there.
Oh, you listen.
Yes, he
Listen
joined
to
in late. Yeah, he did.
He has been there for some time.
Yeah.
Is Jayanti ma'am there? I can see her, but I can't. Jayanti ma'am.
Yeah.
She's there, Dr. Jayanti, can you hear us? Okay, never mind. Actually, this is the inaugural session, so she was not actually supposed to speak, so she may not be there ready to speak. She may be just logged in and not there right now, so it's okay. Betty, we can carry on with the program.
Yes. So we will be hearing from Dr. Narayan in the valedictory.
Yes,
So,
it is. Yeah, she's
we
going to
look forward to that.
Yeah.
Right. So, warm welcome to our wonderful audience who have joined us today for this national webinar. We hope you will all have an exciting and fruitful learning experience. We urge you to follow the guidelines shared with you to ensure a seamless and productive webinar. And like it said, all good things must come to an end. And so must this inauguration ceremony. On that note, I would like to once again extend a very warm thanks and gratitude to all of you, to our dignitaries, Dr. Mani, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Madam Professor Shashikala Vanjari, for being here and supporting us. Without your support and encouragement, today would not have been possible. So thank you once again. With that, we will take a very short and brief 2-minute break, just a quick loo and water break, and then come back so that we can start our keynote session. Our resource person for the keynote session is already here. So I request everyone a quick 2-minute break and be back. It's 12 right now, 12:02. I request everyone to join back. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Annan. I have to.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. And we will call you again, and please be there for us.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Punani, for being there. We welcomed you in your absentia, and we'll be welcoming you again in your presence. But thank you so much. And it's so nice to see the kind of work you're doing in this pandemic for people, particularly with visual impairment and multiple disability. Jayanti ma'am is calling. Just give me a minute. Yes, ma'am.
It was not unmuted.
Yukti, can I try the screen share in the meantime?
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sure, sir.
You just activate the screen sharing.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that
it's done.
Okay.
You can try now, sir.
Is it visible now?
It started sharing, sir. Yes, it is visible now. Himali, one small request. Please do not use the mute all option. It makes it difficult for the participants, for the resource persons to then unmute themselves.
I'm using two screens. That's why you can see the picture and the close together. So I'm using two of your connections.
So I was trying to understand, Dr. Punani, the need for doing this. Then I understood that one can have an easy access to the Word document because you can get the auditory input for the blind easily, easier than it would be in the PowerPoint. Is that the case?
Most of the time, PowerPoint does not work, but Word document is always accessible. So these recordings are stored. So when people want to, refer back, so they can use the NVDA or screen reading software. These days we use only Word document accessible to see that these are more inclusive.
Right. So I was wondering, I didn't know. Then I thought that must be the reason why you're doing this. See, this is
and
how.
if you on the screen, both things are coming together.
Correct.
Because I'm using two screens.
Right.
One is only for presentation, second for audio. So laptop is for audio, maybe computer for presentation. That's why you see presentation by the side. And it can be managed easily. There's a small trick involved in that. That you should have the two, one to present, one to speak.
Right.
Before people come in, what language will be preferred?
English is fine. You can switch to Hindi also in between if you wish to. There is no such thing here.
A lot of people who ran from North India, they feel little uncomfortable when everything is in English.
No, you can switch to Hindi, no problem. English, Hindi, both can be fine.
Yeah, because
when we have CRE, we have more people from the interiors of Maharashtra, then we definitely have to switch to Hindi. But right now, it's okay. You can switch to Hindi whenever you are comfortable.
No problem. I'll be happy with the English. But I mean, sometimes people...
Yeah, we do switch. There is no problem. We can switch also. We can switch.
Sukesh ji, namaskar. Kaisa aapki tabiyat? Nice to see you. Safe and healthy.
All right.
Okay, yeah. And one, if everybody is there, I just want to make one announcement, like not an announcement, actually. Dr. Jayanti Narayan ma'am is there.
I'm back. I think I'm connected.
Okay, now you can say a few words. Now you can say a few words.
I'm extremely sorry, it just froze. And neither the video nor the audio would work when you call. I didn't think you would call me out because you have a time for me day after tomorrow.
Yes. That's what I said.
I was in the listener zone and not in the... when you suddenly called, I tried to switch on, both didn't open.
See, Jayanti, this is also the time to see each other and chit chat, no? Beyond the official things.
It was fantastic, really listening to, 2 months of not having your program seemed like a long time because you all my SNDT family and all the resource person family. And today, Jewel in the Crown is meeting Punani ji and Dr. Mani also. And it's so nice to have been listening to Dr. Mani. He always has this lateral thinking, that I have been admiring in him from some decades. And then not only get anxious about the gaps, but try to find solutions to fill the gaps. It was fantastic listening to him. And also looking forward to listening to Dr. Punani, which is always a pleasure. He says very complex things in very simple manner. He has a way of making it stories-like and putting it across. And Asmita, with all her humility, she really made major points.
Very good point. Very good points.
And your Vice Chancellor, of course, I could see her pride about SNDT, which kind of became contagious with all of us also. Felt proud to be associated with the
Sujata wants us a party now.
I'm waiting for that face-to-face thing. High time we get together. Yes, many parties together.
I know. Together. And as usual, listening to Sudesh ji and Aluka ji is a pleasure. And unfortunately, my system let me down, but I'm glad I'm back again for a few minutes.
Jayanti, you have got 2 more days for us to see each other whenever we want to. No problems.
Very true. Looking forward. And you always organize these, identify gaps, the topics that need to be discussed, and younger minds get the idea so that they take it forward further. And I appreciate you, Sujata and team, for organizing this. And thank you for making me part of your effort. I feel privileged.
Impossible without you. Impossible. Impossible.
so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah.
Yes. Now let's start with the.
Thanks again for the
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
Thank
join
you,
you in the
Dr. Narayan.
inauguration.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. We're now set for our keynote session. I request my colleague and senior faculty, Dr. Apurva Panchikar, to please introduce Dr. Bhushan Punani, our keynote speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Betty. A very good afternoon to all of you. It is my immense privilege to introduce the speaker for our keynote session today. We have with us Dr. Bhushan Punani. He is at present working as Executive Secretary of Blind People's Association, the largest NGO in the disability sector in India. He is also advisor CBR to CBM and SARO North, as well as chairperson, International Council for Education of People with Visual Impairment, which is ICVI. He's the chairperson of the West Asia region. Dr. Punani joined Blind People Association around 1979 after completing his postgraduate diploma in business management from IIM Ahmedabad. He subsequently also completed advanced vocational rehabilitation course from Haifa University and LLB and PhD from Gujarat University. He has also been a member of committees under Ministry for Human Resource Development, which has developed guidelines for education of various marginal sections of society. Sir has provided his services as member of CBR India Network. He's been a member of the new Disability Legislation Committee, similarly member of the Working Group on Disability in the 12th Five-Year Plan, member of the Steering Group on Social Welfare of the 12th Five-Year Plan again. Sir has participated in nearly 300 seminars and presented more than 250 papers at the state, national and international level, conferences and seminars on education, employment, community-based rehabilitation, corporate social responsibility, national disability policy, networking, advocacy, and administration of developmental services. He has published 83 articles in the national as well as international journals and authored 8 books on disability-related subjects. Dr. Punani has also worked as examiner of doctoral programs in esteemed institutions in India. He is also an evaluator of CBR and education programs in India and outside India. And he has also been an evaluator of numerous teacher training programs in India on behalf of the Rehabilitation Council of India. For his distinctive achievements, Dr. Punani has been conferred 14 awards, including Helen Keller Award in 1999, Lion's Roll of Honor in 2005, one of 100 Power Eminent Persons of Gujarat in 2008, and Distinguished Alumnus Award of India Institute of Management, Ahmedabad during 2011. We are extremely fortunate to have with us Dr. Bhushan Punani to address us and give us a keynote address. Sir, over to you. We are eagerly waiting for your words of wisdom, which will give us a light to understand the international and national policies and legislations, the way they are today and the way we should be seeing them happen. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you, Purvaji. Thank you for very elaborate introduction. And the best introduction is that we all are co-workers in the field of disability development. We have been working at different levels, but with the same goal, how to reach people with disabilities in the best possible way. I'm very happy that Professor Shashikala Vanjari ji, it was a pleasure listening to her. My brother, Dr. Mani, who is an expert. It's very difficult to speak after he has spoken. Maybe many things I want to talk, he's already touched upon, so makes my life easier. Nice to see Sujata ji, a great friend, a very trusted friend. Betty, thanks for all your very prompt correspondence. Yukti has always been very helpful in all the events. Nice to see great friend Sudesh ji, and it's always a pleasure seeing her in good health. Asmita ji, Janti, and thank you, Apurva ji, once again for the introduction. Actually, the topic I have been given is very tough. Taking up all the declarations all the conventions, all the frameworks in one session is a very difficult task. And I made it more difficult because just talking about declarations, conventions does not mean much. It does becomes academic talk. For the first time, I'm trying to trace the link between these declarations and what India has done. See, our concern is, are these declarations, all these frameworks, making any difference to the lives of people with disabilities in India? What have we done? What have we achieved? So I'm going to try for everything in every declaration, every international instrument. See, what is influence on India and Indian policies? Less, it's going to be a very difficult task because having so many declarations from right, and as if you see on the screen, I thought I should tell you that inclusion is not something very new. We are talking now. We have been talking in very recent times. But it's way back in 1984, 1834, 36, that Edinburgh first time thought of inclusion, followed by Scotland in 1868, Scottish Education Act. Imagine when our laws, when we are not even an independent country, and 1872, the first Scottish Education Act talked of integrated education, we call it inclusive education. London School Board initiated integration, and local education authorities used to provide support to children with disabilities in a very meaningful way. And if you read the literature, Professor Samuel Grindlay is the authority on education of children with vision impairment. Even he mentioned way back in 1871 that all the our children with visual impairment must go to special regular schools, and they should be educated with and like other children. And then there's a very famous John Sargent report, which is a landmark in the history of education of children with disabilities. Even way back in 1944, this subject was touched upon. And sorry.
Sorry, sir, there was somebody's on.
No problem. In 1948, the Universal Declaration for Human Rights also, for the first time, talked about inclusive education. And then when we went for UN General Assembly on Declaration of Rights of Persons with Disabilities, there also, the beginning was done that time, that this topic of education of children with disability was taken up. And way back in 1975, the USA had a very, very bold law. It's called Education for All, where they mentioned that we should go for least restrictive environment of children with disabilities, which changed the whole scenario in USA. Even India, we are not far behind. It was way back in our constitution, when it was adopted, our father of the constitution very rightly pointed out under the directive principles of state policy that the state to provide free and compulsory education for all children until they complete age of 14 years, which now stands as 18 years for children with disabilities. One is very proud that our constitution, which is the mother law from where all laws emanate, had recognized the need for such education at the time of adopting this constitution in 1950. Even the Kothari Commission of 1964, which was a landmark development in our country, recommended inclusion, which is a very important thing. Our national policy in education, we have new policy now, which I'll come back a little later. Our policy, which was the second policy in 1986, for the first time, they used the word to integrate children with special needs with general community as equal partners, to prepare them for normal growth, and very important, to enable them face life with courage and confidence. What Dr. Mani was talking this morning emanates very clearly from our instrument of 1986. And based on that, we already had a central scheme of integrated education for children with disabilities, which was evolved in early 80s and then modified in 87, 89, 1992, and again in 2009. So our history is also very encouraging. we cannot say that we have not been working. Only thing is I'll come back to what we have been lacking. Now, friends, abhi jo mera mukhya topic hai, major declarations, what implications they have on India, that's what I'll try to present. And the most landmark proclamation, which is very important, I'll explain how it's important for India. इनको 1992 में स्वीकार किया गया. It's known as Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, which was the most powerful body. They adopted the Asia and Pacific Decade of Disabled People during the period 1993 to 2002. It was done on 23rd April, and this is known as Beijing Proclamation. And fortunately for us, a lot of people from India attended that event. And while proclamation is a very complex document, something which is very relevant, which is relevant to us today, today's topic, is that the proclamation adopted promotion of special efforts to foster positive attitudes towards children and adults with disabilities, and most important, undertaking of measures to improve their access to rehabilitation, education, employment, culture, and sports activities and physical environment. Friends, if you go through this document, this was the first comprehensive document for Asia Pacific, which apart from other measures, included education as a very important component. Now I'll tell you a very important part of the history, which is not written anywhere. When India wanted to adopt a law, comprehensive law for this country, there was a problem. India is a federal structure, disability is state subject, so no central government can make a law for the matter which concerns only the state. So the central government was not empowered to make a law unless all the states or majority of states give accent to that law or become part of enacting that law, which is never possible because we have party politics, party culture. There are different parties, different states, and they will never come together when it comes to anything like law. So it is not possible ever for this country to have a national law. We could have the state laws based on a model law, which would not be effective. So country wanted a central law, which should be uniform for the whole country. That was not possible because our constitution did not permit enactment of law for the country when states are involved. One Mr. A.K. Chaudhary, Sujata ji and Sudesh ji must be remembering, he was joint secretary. He was professor of law in Lucknow, and he found a way out, very interesting way out. In Article 252 of Constitution of India, there's one provision that if there's any matter which is part of international declaration, if India is a signatory to that declaration, that particular matter, then the central government can enact a law for the whole country. Now they discovered, very interesting, Beijing Declaration was the first international instrument where India was a signatory, and this instrument has advocated that the countries which have signed that declaration should draft a suitable and comprehensive national legislation. Friends, that one wording of that declaration and Mr. Sitaram Kesari signing that declaration in Beijing enabled the central government to enact the law. This is the first central law concerning disability which was adopted in the country, Person with Disabilities Act 1995. And this act came only and only because of Beijing Declaration. Particularly the students who are listening to me, sometimes it's very difficult to connect. Beijing Declaration is just a document. But how that document changed the whole system in our country was one gentleman sitting in Delhi discovered just because we signed this proclamation. Now India can enact a national legislation. That's how the law came. So thanks to Mr. Sitaram Kesari and Mr. Agarwal, A.K. Agarwal, that first time that we had a comprehensive law. People have their own opinions on the law, but according to me, that was a revolution. But a lot of things which have happened today, the credit goes to the law of 1995. Now, friends, now we go to the second part. जो दूसरा हमारा जो instrument है, standard rules on equalization of opportunity for. Again, it was enacted in 1991, 20th February. UNSCAP adopted it. Again, now it's just a set of standard rules which countries should follow. There are a number of rules, but the rule number 6, which I like to share with you, is relevant to our context today. The state should recognize principle of equal primary, secondary, and tertiary educational opportunities for children, youth, adults with disabilities in integrated setup. Now we can read as inclusive setup, but that time the term used as integrated is a different context. So friends, this is the first time the standard rules covered all forms of education, all levels of education, and for education for each and every child. So first time we had a standard rule which was talking of primary, secondary, tertiary education for children with disabilities. Now you'll be wondering that these standard rules were enacted. So how India benefited from there? Friends, I was part of the active person when we are drafting the Person with Disabilities Act. Based on standard rules, our country agreed to take Section 25 of Person with Disabilities Act, which was a revolution, which was the law which set the tone for further right to education act, etc. For the first time that we had a section, yeah, I'll read for your benefit, and how powerful this section was that we adopted it from standard rules, that Section 25 of Person with Disabilities Act adopted the standard rule by mandating, now listen very carefully, appropriate government and local authorities, we're taking both the levels, government as well as authorities, shall ensure that every is underlined, every child with disability has access to free is underlined, free education in an appropriate environment. Again, very important, till he or she attains the age of 18 years, and to promote integration of students with disabilities in normal schools. Friends, this is the first legal phrase in our law which talks of free education, which talks of compulsory education, which talks of education to the age of 18 years, and it talks of education in an appropriate environment. It talks of inclusion. So thanks to standard rules, that Section 25, which really proved very useful. Many states took big advantage of that particular section, which was a revolution, and the credit goes to the standard rules which were adopted in 1991. Now we come to another landmark, Salamanca Declaration, which was one of the, the stepping stone for inclusive education. First time the world recognized that Salamanca Frame for Action adopted for acclamation in the city of Salamanca, which is in Spain, on 10th June 1994, on the occasion of World Conference on Special Need Children, Special Need Education. And the guiding principle, which are very important of this declaration, are every child, again I repeat, every child has a fundamental right to education, which is very important in Indian context, and must be given the opportunity to achieve and maintain an acceptable level of learning. Here we use term learning, which goes beyond education. So this was the first guiding principle. Second, every child has unique characteristic, interest, abilities, and learning needs. This particular declaration recognizes that the child have different learning needs, and most important, the education system should be designed and program implemented to take into account the wide diversity of these characteristics and needs. Every child is different, their needs are different. So we have to recognize that. Another very important Salamanca principle, those children with special need have access to regular school. Very important, but we are talking now, which should accommodate them with the child-centric pedagogy capable of meeting these needs. These are wonderful narrations. And based on that, and Sudeshji will be very happy, Dr. Jangira, who is a stalwart in the field of inclusive education, he was part of this declaration. And the big credit goes to him for drafting, adopting, and bringing the idea to India. And let's see what India did. Again, based on this framework, as I mentioned, we adopted Section 25, as you saw, standard rule, but the support came from this particular framework, that we should have free and compulsory education. That was one thing, and that every child has access to free and compulsory education till the age of 18 years, and we have to see that it takes place in inclusive education. So standard rules and Salman Ka put together. These were the instruments which we referred while designing the section 25 to 33 of the Persons with Disabilities Act, which was the landmark in the field of education of children with disabilities, more so for inclusive education or let's say appropriate education. Friends, now we go to हम अभी जाएंगे fourth instrument, Vivaco Millennium Framework. Again, this was the instrument adopted by UNESCAPE. They adopted this framework towards an inclusive, very important, barrier-free, and right-based society. And the three words are very important: inclusive, barrier-free, and right-based society for persons with disabilities in Asia and Pacific, by which it proclaimed the extension of the Asian Pacific Decade for the years 1993 to 2002. Now, friends, the policy, the principle on which this policy was based is to promote the goal of inclusive, barrier-free, right-based, as we saw earlier, for persons with disabilities. And the best thing was that we should adopt a policy. We should have intervention in all multi-sectoral, including education, health, and rehabilitation, and social services for children with disabilities. Now, it was mentioned that within 4 years, the country should have a national policy. We should focus on barrier-free, inclusive, and right-based education. And that was the use as a tool, friends, that when Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment constituted a group on evolving the national policy on disability development. Somewhere in 2004 and 2005, there was a national consultation. I'm very happy I was part of that consultation, which was held in Spinal Injury Center. And the first time our country, I repeat, first time our country had a national policy on disability development. And that's the last policy. The new policy is yet to come. So our latest policy was in 2005, and the whole credit to this policy goes to Vivaco. And based on that, we adopted the policy. And this policy do clarifies. For the students, I like to refer that you can refer to this instrument, that India being a signatory to Declaration on Full Participation and Equality of Persons with Disabilities, as well as the Vivaco Millennium Framework, it recognizes the World Program of Action and standard rules. See, read it very carefully. It's clubbing standard rules, the Vivaco Millennium Framework, and the program, the International Standard World Program on people with disabilities. And India participated and negotiated drafting. And because of that, our national policy came up on the principle of inclusive education. So friends, these instruments are not just the paper tiger. These instruments are not just for the sake of drafting and keeping in the cupboards. It depends how those instruments are used as a tool for developing the national scenario based on that. Now we go to the fifth instrument, which is the most powerful, I think the landmark instrument. We call it UNCRPD, United Nations Convention Rights of People with Disability. Dr. Mani also referred to that. And as you know, India was one of the first few signatories who signed it on the first day. And we were the 7th country to ratify the convention. That's a very matter of great credit that our country came forward. Now, signing is one thing, but once you sign such an instrument, such a convention, you have to implement. And before I go to how we implement it, I just like to say the Article 3 of this convention is very important. And you have to understand that it lays very, very, very powerful principles, which are first principle is respect for everyone's inherent dignity, freedom to make their own choices and be independent. So this talks about their dignity and freedom. Then there's the principle of non-discrimination. You cannot discriminate a child on the basis of disability, and then it desires full participation and inclusion in the society, and respect for differences, as we saw earlier instruments, differences in accepting persons with disabilities as part of human diversity. And again, which was part of the 1995 law, equal opportunities in a respect of mainstream of social life, accessibility, which is part of the new law, having access to transportation, place, and information. Then equality, the gender equality between men and women, very important. Our law had devoted a special chapter on that. their respect for evolving capacity of children with disabilities, their right to preserve their identity. Now, there's a whole Article 24, which is on education, which is very relevant. People have right to go to school and they cannot be excluded. Very important. They cannot be excluded from education because of their disability. This is a very powerful statement. Have right to the same education. I underline same education and curriculum as other children. The government must give them help they need to make this happen. It directs the government that if you are a signatory, you have to give the help to such children to make it happen. Now, what do you think? What will be the impact of this particular UNCRPD? Based on this, the first time the country appointed a committee in 2011 that as we have signed the UNCRPD, we have to go for a new right-based comprehensive law. We had the law, Person with Disabilities Act 1995, but country now decided to go for a comprehensive law, right-based law, and very bold thing, we repealed the old law. We didn't want to modify or amend the law. The old law was repealed and the new law was adopted in 2016. Again, it's a matter of great honor for me. I was part of the law drafting committee and I handled chapters on education and rehabilitation, which was a matter of great pride to work closely with the, most of you who are on the screen. Many Sujata ji and all of you are part of that particular group. So this was the great achievement because of UNCRPD. Today we have the comprehensive law. You all will be very honored to know this law has been adopted as it is by Fiji. It's adopted with little modification by Bangladesh, by Nepal, and many other countries around the globe, developing countries, have adopted Indian law with the regional modification. So this law is a landmark for the world and it's very comprehensive law. And as you know, there are few very relevant part, free and compulsory education, then support service done with assistive devices, training of special educator. All of you who are the special educator, the power came from this law and the earlier laws. Orientation of the regular teachers, reservation of 5% in higher education, and accessible school environment. So this is a very comprehensive law, but these are 5-6 relevant elements to education. Now, friends, we come to WHO CBR guidelines. These are the guidelines which very few people know because only people who work in CBR have been more relevant. Sujata ji will be very happy. Based on these guidelines, CBID manual is developed by Melbourne University and Government of India, Rehab Council of India. But the base comes from the UN WCBR guidelines, which are very comprehensive guidelines. Friends, I'll recommend you. These are available on the website, or I can send you. Please go through these lines. There cannot be a more comprehensive instrument at international level than this one. It covers every dimension of rehabilitation, education, and right-based. It's 481 pages, but beautifully done. And I'm very proud that myself, Nandini, Mani, Sujata ji, we were part of this drafting. Everybody had a chance to write only 3 pages. Every author could write only 3 pages of these guidelines. So how many people wrote? 291 people contributed, and they're very comprehensive. Anybody who works in a comprehensive model of rehabilitation must go through these guidelines. While there are 5 components which are on education, livelihood, social, and empowerment of people with disabilities. But I'll talk only about education component very briefly. And the outcome of education should be, again, it repeats the earlier thing, all people have access to learning and resources that meet their needs and respect their rights. Very important. Then the local schools take in all children. Now, local schools, we talk every school, we don't talk of special school. Every school which is called a school must take children with disabilities so that they can learn, play along with the peer. Local schools are accessible, very important. We adopted in our new law, welcoming, they have a flexible curriculum. So that is very important. And teachers who are trained and supported, there's good link between with the families and the community, and educate sanitation and water facilities for people with disabilities and for every child. And person with disability should be involved in education as role model. They should also become the teachers, decision makers, and contributors. And there's a need for home environment that should encourage and support the learning. The communities are made aware that persons with disabilities can learn and provide support and encouragement for lifelong learning. We don't stop at a formal education. We go lifelong learning. And there is a good collaboration between the health, education, social, and other sectors. Now, friends, this is a very, very bold instrument. But again, the question comes that what happened in India? India has been promoting CBR as well as inclusive education almost from 1982, and one of the most leading we are one of the most leading countries in the world. You'll be very happy. Myself, Nandini, and our team has covered more than 500,000 people across India, South Asia, and Africa under this mode of CBR, which is the largest coverage by any single institute. This, along with the NAB India, RCSB, Saver, and many other supporting organizations, which has adopted. See, this CBR India, you'll be very glad, and I feel very honored. There are 25 subcomponents under 5 components. 22 subcomponents. You'll be very surprised. Almost all the components have been adopted, accommodated in our new law. We're one of the few countries which had the bold initiative, because we waited for the guidelines to come. And after guidelines came, after convention came, and we went for drafting of the new law, the sequence was the guidelines were drafted after the convention came, and our law was drafted after the guidelines came. So we accommodated UNCRPD as well as the guidelines as a disability status report, which other instrument based on all the 25 components without exception have been accommodated directly or indirectly in our law, mostly chapter on rehabilitation, education, accessibility, empowerment, etc. Now, friends, there's a 7th instrument, Incheon strategy, which is a beautiful instrument, very well drafted. It has 10 interrelated goals, 27 targets, and 62 indicators, which whosoever did that have done a wonderful job. I recommend you very strongly, whenever time permits you, just Google it. It's available. Read the whole strategy. If you read the strategy, what I've been talking so far has been beautifully covered in a very well drafted instrument, and it gives a time frame that to the Asia Pacific countries that how we should cover people within 2013 to 2022. Now, while there are a number of, as I mentioned, 10 goals, 27 targets, 62 indicators, I'm touching upon only the goal number 5, which focuses on early intervention and education, which is a very beautiful goal. And the target is to enhance measures for early detection. Now, friends, we go to one more stage. Education cannot happen unless you back up with early detection, early assessment, early identification, and counseling. These are very important. And then only we can go from birth to preschool. You can see smile on my face because this has been adopted in our new education policy, which I'll come back a little later. And we have to see the gap between the children with disabilities and without disabilities reduced. They all study together in the same environment with the curriculum which is good for all of them, and then only inclusion will take place. And the core indicator about education is the number of children with disabilities receiving early childhood intervention, their primary education enrollment rate and secondary education enrollment rate. These 3 are the indicators. The primary education enrollment rate, secondary enrollment rate, and early childhood intervention are very important in context of Incheon strategy. Now, again, friends, I'm very proud. I feel honored that this strategy was not just a hollow instrument. Based on this strategy, we had already adopted the Right to Education Act 2019, and that act did not take children with disabilities under the pretext that this is covered under the Person with Disabilities Act, so they will not cover it here. Of course, there was agitation, there was dhamal, the Delhi mein kafi agitation hua. Madam Sonia Gandhi, thanks to her, she promised that they will modify the law. Everybody thought it's just a promise, but I'm very happy that 2011, there was a very storming meeting. Mr. Kapil Sibal took the meeting where we almost fought a battle in his chamber, and 25 people fighting with each other. They came to almost, almost rebuking each other. But ultimately, the law was modified, and for the first time, anywhere in the world, we have a Right to Education Act, which covers children with disabilities. Now, with this, I will not go to that act, but only one statement: every child has right to go to every school. There's a 25% reservation of children who are disadvantaged, including children with disabilities. So this is a very bold law. Some states have implemented very effectively, including Gujarat and states in South India. Others should also implement. Now, friends, after this, we go to Sustainable Development Goal, which is the latest instrument, which was adopted in 2015 only, and it provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet as a whole, and now and into the future. Very well drafted instrument. At the heart are 17 sustainable development goals, which are an urgent call for action by all the countries in a global partnership. These goals recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand. That with strategies that improve health and education, very important. Health education must be improved, poverty should be reduced, and there should be economic growth for each and everybody. And everybody, while talking climate change, which is very important topic in the country today, and working to preserve our oceans and forests. So it covers from education right up to climate exchange and culture and economic development of the people. But friends, while there are 17 goals, goal number 4 is relevant to us, and which is a very bold goal on education. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning. As you saw earlier in the guidelines and other declaration, we are starting from inclusive education and go till the lifelong learning is the goal number 4 for the whole world. And it says under that, we should provide inclusive and equitable quality education at all levels. We're not talking 1 or 2 level, every level of education, there should be inclusive and equitable education. And then all people, providing all the people, irrespective of sex, age, race, ethnicity, and including people with disabilities. So this goal makes a very special reference to people with disabilities. So they have to be covered under the Sustainable Development Goal, and to provide children and youth with a nurturing environment for the full realization of their rights and capabilities. Just notice it, rights have been put first. So we have to go for a rights-based education, rights-based society. That's the predicament, that's the declaration, and helping our countries, including India, to reap demographic dividend, including through safe schools and cohesive community and families. It's a very beautiful worded instrument which covers, now I come to the last part, implication for India. Friends, I'm very happy that these instruments have been adopted to a great extent in India. And if you see all the instruments, including Millennium Development Goal, and if you go to our new education policy, which was adopted very recently, and almost all the dictates of all the instruments has been covered. I'll just give you a few highlights to compare that how all the instruments have been reflected directly or indirectly into our new education policy. And before that, the theme of NEP, which is very important for us, universal high quality education for all learners. Please understand, all learners, that include children with disabilities, regardless of social and economic background. This is like a constitution in education, which says every learner has to be covered. And the focus of this policy is on historically marginalized, disadvantaged, and underrepresented groups. People with disability fall in all the three streams, so they also need to be covered, and it should cover the students. There's section 5 and 9 is specially devoted to children with disabilities. So these children should have, again, just see the instrument I spoke and see how we adopted in our policy. See a very clear line. Even the wordings are not very different. We have taken up the similar wording for the sake of brevity and for the sake of cohesiveness, that our children should have safe, inclusive, and effective learning environment, which is very important under article section 5 and 9. And the outcome of this policy should be achieving economic and social mobility, inclusion and equality. Again, these three words have been reflected in many declarations: social mobility, moving upward, their inclusion and equality. And I'm sure you all will be very happy. First time an instrument is focusing on early childhood care and education, ECCE, play-based, activity-based preparatory services, which enable child with disability to develop communication and early language literacy and numeracy. I think it's what a beautiful 1.2 brings in the early childhood care and education, which most of our teachers will appreciate. That's the right thing. And then we go to the preparatory classes. Apart from the early childhood, second instrument is the preparatory classes. You all will be surprised. Our scheme of integrated education of which was done in early 80s had the provision for preparatory classes. Desi will agree when she speaks. We had the provision. NCERT worked on that. The child must be prepared for the classroom. Unfortunately, that has not come through very effectively. So policies again highlighting preparatory classes, play-based learning with a focus on developing cognitive, affective, and psychomotor abilities shall enhance scope for introducing pre-braille activities and other total communication, thus laying foundation for reading and writing braille and total communication. So this policy is one instrument which recognizes very specific needs of children with disabilities, and there's a provision for 3 months play-based school readiness program. Again, it's very surprising. Our scheme of inclusive education had a school readiness program. We adopted in 2009. We had adopted it much earlier. Now we are reflecting in the policy. And according to me, this has come in many instruments which we are doing in our policy in the school readiness program with involvement and collaboration of peers and parents. You saw in CBR guidelines, which is reflected here, that will enable children with sensory impairment and other disabilities to face school environment effectively. In section 2.5, you can go back and refer in detail. Then establishing digital libraries, and those will benefit such children and students with at higher learning level through use of technology. Friends, it's very interesting that there's a lot of focus on technology in section 2.8. Then the boarding schools, for the children with multiple disabilities, they should have multiple pathways to learning and both formal and informal education. And wherever possible, we have to broaden the school education to accommodate all these facilities. And again, there's a need for technological intervention to enhance access to print material, thus providing support, the provision of supports concept of ensuring accessibility. You saw in the Persons with Disabilities Act, which is reflected in this policy also. Now, friends, I'd like you to give a very, very important thing. There's a landmark achievement. Generally, no policy refers to a law directly, but the policy is about the law. It guides the country to develop the laws and the schemes and the other notification. First time the policy had a courage, the drafting people had a courage to say that the policy endorses all the provisions of the Person with Disabilities Act. Now you see the link. We went for Beijing Declaration, came up with the PwD Act. We went for UNCRPD, so we modified our law to add the Persons with Disabilities Act, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. And now the policy says all the provisions of the ROPWD Act, which are access to print material, use of technology, provision of education, assistive devices, reasonable accommodation, reservation in higher education, sensitization of teachers, appointment of special educators, and accessible school become part of these policies. Very, very bold. The section 6.10 says very clearly what is there in the law is adopted by this policy as it is. Now, again, there's a university to provide the scholarship to set up high quality support centers. So this policy does not stop with primary and secondary education. It goes up to the higher education. Even at the university level, there should be a special cell, which called disability. They should give they should be called now they call Disability Study Center. They should provide the funds and give a support to the children with disabilities, students with disabilities at that level, and they should carry out their higher education more effectively. And of course, as you saw, all buildings at the school level, college level, university level should be accessible, disability friendly, in line with the Accessible India campaign. Sugame Bharat Abhiyan ke anurup ye sabhi accessible hona chahiye. Friends, as we're running out of time, I come to the summary. I feel very happy when I speak before you. All the declaration, which some people say are the paper tigers, they never see the light of the day. But according to me, they are not. They have guided our policies, they have guided our laws, they have guided our schemes. And because of that, today our new education policy 2020 covers almost all the mandates, all the provisions of all the declaration, conventions and frameworks which India has signed, or India has ratified, or India has adopted and implemented. It's a true inclusive policy because it talks of inclusion, talks of rights, talks of support services, and there's an excellent coverage of children with disability in all dimensions of all levels and all forms of education. It's very important. We are not talking this and not that. Every level, every form of education should be inclusive, and this is a true reflection of principles of equity, equality, human dignity, and I should say the social justice in education system. It has a great focus on intervention, technology, accessibility, and comprehensive inclusion in all dimensions of education. Friends, the challenge, however, shall be effective, time-bound, and result-oriented implement is the same. As Dr. Mani also pointed out, is the implementation which matters. Policies are there, laws are there, schemes are there, notifications are there, but how effective are, how effectively we can implement them, that's our challenge. And I invite all of you, because all of you are the change agent. You are going to change the lives of people with disabilities. If all of you join and read all these policies, if you read just the new education policy and the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act and Right to Education Act, every summary we cover, all the declarations are covered there. Friends, it's just the beginning of a long journey of ensuring access of each child with disability to each mode of education at all levels of education. However, I'm sure you'll agree with me, we have a long way to go, but a very strong, a solid beginning indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Apurva, are you going to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very enlightening talk about all the international perspective on inclusive education. Betty ma'am, do we have time for question answers? Because I think we do have around 7 minutes. So
Yes.
if it's okay, sir, if it's okay with you, we can take a few questions. If there are any in the audience. Betty ma'am, may I request you to please look at what questions are there?
Yes. Ramya ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, Betty.
Yeah, any questions that we have noted?
Not yet.
Okay, so in YouTube, there are no questions. If anyone, yes. Dr. Guha ma'am, yes. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, Kadi, you want to say something?
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I wanted to congratulate Dr. Bhushan Punani for his very comprehensive, extensive, and more importantly, absolutely intensive narrative of how the legislation's policy and all of these instruments which have been international in terms of treaties and declarations, we have actualized them in terms of national work, activities, etc. Thank you so much, Dr. Punani. That was amazing and extremely good. God bless.
Somebody has a question how to implement.
Yes, sir.
That is
there are actually 2 or 3 questions here. So with your permission, I may just read out the questions. So Mr. Vivek Singh wants to know, what is the opportunity for special educators in government schools?
Actually, this is a very good question. Congratulations, Paul Singh. Many states have given an equivalence now. If you have a B.Ed special education, you are eligible even to apply as a teacher in the respective subject where you specialize, what major you took. In Gujarat, in Rajasthan, in Tamil Nadu, everywhere, Andhra Pradesh, that now the special educator have an opportunity to go and work in a regular school. That's number 1. Number 2, Sarv Shiksha Gyan, Samagra Shiksha is a great opportunity. Of course, there's a problem of the consolidated salaries and contract base. There's a scheme called IEDSS, which is part of now Samagra Shiksha. You all will be shocked. I mean, when I tell you, you will not believe me. We have 1,240 special educators only under that scheme. There's a judgment of the Gujarat High Court, which has been validated by Supreme Court. I request all the teachers कि मेरी बात को बिल ठीक से सुने कि because of the judgment, now special educator in Gujarat under IDSS get the same salary as being paid to other class teachers. They have got from 2013. The areas run into 200 crores. And now they are pensionable. Leave encashment is there. Gratuity is there. All when you got now, it's up to you in your state. See, there are 3-4 opportunities. You can be a teacher. आप एक regular school में teacher बन सकते हैं, special school में teacher बन सकते हैं. Because of RCI, only and only people who have RCI registration and are qualified having the B.Ed special can be the special educator. And third and very important, all the special schemes of Smagra Shiksha, IDSS, etc. take only the people with the right qualifications. So according to me, the future for our teachers is very bright. Only thing is that you have to compete. Everybody has a problem of passing the TAT. I mean, you have to clear the exam. You have to compete like any other teacher. If you complete the competency exam, world is yours.
Absolutely, sir. It looks like, with so many opportunities available for special educators, and across, right from inclusive education schools or even special schools, we have a very, very big role to play in providing educational services for children with disabilities. So there is another question from Mintu Bhattacharya. She wants to know, according to you, what is the paradigm shift that can be seen in the implementation of these acts?
Implementation of?
Implementation of these acts.
Oh, these acts. Yes. See, acts are passive. Acts they cannot speak, they cannot walk. Acts by itself are passive. But it depends on the people, how you make the acts active and make them implement. I'll give you a classical example. If any university or any college, any government-run institution in the country refuses admission for a child with disability, they cannot. But there is a Supreme Court judgment, there are directives from MHRD, there are state directives. Only thing is somebody has to bring them together and tell them that these are there. So somebody has to do advocacy. DPS put up a whole, Kanjari Desai is the full-time advocacy manager. We do advocacy at all levels. Advocacy does not mean strike. It means fighting for our rights. You will be surprised. 2 years before, आप ध्यान से सुनिएगा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आदेश किया कि लो विजन व्यक्ति भी एक मेडिकल प्रोफेशनल बन सकता है. First time in BJ Medical College in Ahmedabad, a low vision person has been given the admission only because of law. As I mentioned, we have 1,240 teachers only because of law. Now that there's a right to education, हर एक स्कूल में दिव्यांग बच्चे को लेना अनिवार्य है. That's because of law. We have guidelines on the writers, the leaders. Many universities, like Delhi University, has hundreds of students who are given even concession in their hostel, in their educational material, and given scholarship, all because of law. Laws are powerful, but they will become more powerful if we, the people who work for this field, understand the laws, implement the laws through advocacy. You have to go and tell the Babu, look, there's a law. We are bound by that. We don't have to go and always plead, nahi, kar dijiye. We say, no, this is our right. You are bound to do that because we are not asking for anything more than the right. Like accessibility is a right. But how many buildings are accessible? That's where we have to fight. There's a app called WhatsApp, WhatsApp. Just go and see how many buildings are inaccessible, but how many are accessible also. So the law can be implemented if we, the caretaker of the law. First of all, मुझे कहते हुए संकोच होता है, काफी लोग लॉ को नहीं पढ़ते हैं. वो ये मानते हैं कि कानून तो लॉयर्स के लिए, कोर्ट के लिए. ऐसा नहीं है. ये एक इससे मिथ, एक गलत विचारधारा है. आपको लॉ पढ़ना चाहिए, लॉ समझना चाहिए. हमने एक एक्सपेरिमेंट किया है गुजरात में, आप भी करिएगा. Whenever there is a judicial orientation program by the Gujarat Judicial Academy, we go and take a lecture. What are the laws for people with disability? You will be surprised. The High Court judges, City Civil Court judges, for the first time, they come to there are laws for people with disability. Then they ring up. कि ये मैटर आया तो इसकी कौन सी judgment है? We keep inventory of judgments. So we have to these are sleeping tigers. The courts are very, very genuine. They're very powerful. There are beautiful judgments of Delhi High Court and Supreme Court and Gujarat High Court and Kerala High Court. But who reads that? As I told you, there's judgment for equal salary. But who has gone to their state high court and knocked at the door? Look, Gujarat is giving the full salary. Why not other states? So my request to all the participants, जो भी मेरी आवाज सुन रहे हैं, आप कानून को पढ़िएगा, समझिएगा और कैसे दिव्यांग बच्चों को, विद्यार्थियों को आप लाभ दे सकते हैं, आप उसको अमल में लाइएगा। और मैं एक छोटी सी ऑफर करना चाहूंगा, icwwestasia.in पर सभी जजमेंट्स अपलोड की गई हैं और मेरा मोबाइल नंबर सुजाता जी आपको देंगे। On YouTube, we have put the whole law, Person with Disabilities Act in Hindi. उसको हिंदी में रिकॉर्डिंग करके पूरे लॉ को अपलोड किया हुआ है यूट्यूब पर। आप कभी भी आपको लॉ समझने में, लॉ को जानने में, जजमेंट की जानकारी के बारे में आपको तकलीफ हो, 24/7 you can ring up, you can send the email. We'll be very happy to guide you, prompt you and give you the right material. But you have to take the initiative.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful thing that you said, that unless and until we stakeholders become aware of what are these laws, and these laws always have been so cliche, they have been so complex that a common man, and I would say even as a professional, a special education professional, I have barely wanted to go and read up those documents to make sense. If we understand all these policies, the acts, all of these in this true spirit, we can take it forth and we can see how we can, bring about a change vis-a-vis practice. I think it was an amazing, deliberation that you were able to give to us, right from tracing the history of inclusive education to talking about how right from the Beijing Proclamation to the Sustainable Development Goals, how it has impacted India from our Persons with Disabilities Act of 1995 through the National Policy on Education of 2020. It has always been felt that international laws, declaration frameworks, they have their own place, and a common man not understand how it translates into a policy for India or certain guidelines that then can be taken forth for the implementation in the classrooms. I think I would just want to go back to what Dr. Narayan said in the beginning, that you have the skill of making very, very complex ideas, very complex thoughts, extremely simple. You have made them so lucid that all of us, I'm sure, are prompted to look at all these declarations, policies, frameworks in a new light. And we are confident that as important stakeholders in inclusive education, we take forth this torch of bringing about a change. So thank you for all your time with us today. Betty ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Punani. Thank you so much for such an enlightening session. Thank you very much for your support to our department. Thanks a ton. Thanks a ton.
My pleasure.
Thanks a ton. Betty.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ban. Thank you, Dr. Panchikar and Dr. Bhushan Punani. Sir, it's been very enlightening and very informative. And I don't have anything more to say. I think we've said it all. You've lit a light in us, a little spark in us to now go back and look at all the laws and policies and get a little more familiar with them and incorporate them a little bit more in our lives and not just leave them on paper. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of today's session. And it's been a wonderful session, and we will have a repeat of this experience tomorrow and day after. So we look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow here again in Zoom. Tomorrow we have sessions by Professor Sudesh Mukhopadhyay and Dr. Aloka Guha. They will be speaking on evolving legislations for inclusive education and perspective on rehabilitation of persons with disabilities, respectively. And we request everyone to please join us at 11 a.m. And we will have for both those sessions. Once again, tomorrow we will have a live stream on YouTube also. But I would request that if you can be part of the Zoom meet, that would be really, really great. The feedback link for today has been posted both here in the Zoom chat as well as in the YouTube chat section. So make sure you fill up those feedback forms. before we go away, we request everyone to please switch on your cameras so that we can take a group photograph and document this moment for all our memories.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience wants to say anything? Sudesh ma'am, do you want to say anything?
Notes from him like a student. Punani will have to share the notes with me.
Yes. Yeah. No,
Because-
everybody in the chat box has written that. Please share because it's so comprehensive, so well
and
put
again,
and so
it is
simple.
because of the topic which you have assigned to me. He has paved the way for, and see, that is what called the telepathy. Good. Punani, I really liked your session.
Yes, very, very
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Very, very nice. Thank you.
Requesting everybody once again to please switch on your cameras briefly just so that we can take a photograph.
And?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
Hold on.
We have a few
Ma'am,
screens to go. Please hold on.
There are
What
total
happened?
8 screens. There are total 8 screens. Hold on for a minute. We need to take
Okay.
picture.
Okay.
Yeah, I said.
Okay, we have
That's
quite a
good.
few participants. All right, all right. Though some have disappeared by now.
The link for the feedback form has been posted in the chat. I'm reposting it again for everyone's reference. So those who've missed it, you can.
Good to see everyone. And I'm going to remember faces for tomorrow's attendance.
Done, Yukti? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Stay
all
safe and
tomorrow.
see you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Have a good
Thank
lunch
you.
and a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. It was
Can the
wonderful.
DSC team just
Absolutely.
stay back for a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sujata and team. It was a
Thank you,
great
ma'am.
work
Thank you
yesterday.
so
Dr.
much.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for your
See you
support and
tomorrow
for being
again.
there. Thank you.
See you
Thank you.
tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take
Yes.
care, all
Bye-bye.
of you.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Almighty.
Farzeen. Farzeen is our B.Ed student.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you make an announcement. The students can leave the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you, girls, for being there. I hope you all benefited and
Go quickly.
understood.
Yes. Go quickly. Have your lunch. We're all coming to take your lectures now.
Oh my God. Yes, they have a lecture too.
Bye, girls. Thank you for being here. Why is Harsha showing us Kanika Bansal?
No, it's Kanika only.
Wasn't that Harsha?
No.
No? Okay.
DSC students, please leave the meet. Chaitali?
Yeah, fatafat se.
Shraddha, Chaitali. Requesting all the participants to please disconnect from the meeting. Hi and bye, Sangeeta.
Some don't want to leave only and some leave halfway only.
Arusa, you can leave.
I think we should have another link ready for us to connect quickly rather than wait for them.
We can all just move to the breakout room. Shall I do that?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a better
room?
thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's taking unnecessarily, we are wasting time. So how do I reach there? You give me a...
Just a minute, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that's all of us. You'll get a pop-up on the screen asking you to connect to the breakout room. Ishita, are you here?